Hi y'all, my name is Ashley Storm Ruhlman, founder of Storm Liquor License. Welcome to the first video in our TABC strategy video series. I hope you had a chance to watch our intro video and are ready to get started with the process of making sure you're set up to get a Texas liquor license. In this video, we're going to first go over some basic terms. Then we'll get into confirming that your business concept will work under Texas alcoholic beverage law. Before we really get started, let's go through some basics and some TABC terminology. I've used the term liquor licenses several times now. You'll also hear me use the term permits. Know that when it comes to the sale of alcohol in Texas, licenses and permits are basically the same thing. Under Texas law, licenses generally give authority related to beer. Permits do the same, but related to the other types of alcoholic beverages. For example, a mixed beverage permit authorizes the permit holder to sell all types of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption. Most traditional bars hold this permit. Another example, the retail dealer's on-premises license grants its holder the right to sell beer for on-premises consumption, but nothing else. The TABC is the state-appointed gatekeeper to entering the alcoholic beverage industry in Texas. The TABC is run by several commissioners who are appointed by our governor. These commissioners hire an executive director who runs the several divisions of the TABC. They include the Enforcement Division, Audit and Investigations Division, Marketing Practices Division, and many others. When you apply for your Texas liquor license, you will be dealing with one specific division, the Licensing Division. The TABC geographically divides the state into regions. When you need to contact the TABC, your best bet is to reach out to the region in which your business is located. All of the TABC divisions are bound to follow the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Code, or the Code, and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission rules, the rules. The Code, the rules, and TABC practice govern the application process, and patching these three resources together can be challenging. Next up is applicant. I'll use the term applicant throughout the course in reference to the person or company who will actually apply for and hopefully hold the TABC permit. Some bars and restaurants have complex operations involving multiple companies. For example, you might set up a separate LLC to engage all of your servers, and another to operate your restaurant, and even another to hold the alcoholic beverage permit. This complex type of structure must be fully disclosed to the TABC and is outside the scope of this video. Even in that complex structure, the applicant is only the company that actually holds the alcoholic beverage permit. When the permit issues, the applicant becomes permit holder. Okay, one last term, licensed premises. This is the specific space where you can use your alcoholic beverage permit, where you take orders from customers and where you serve them, where your vendors deliver all your alcohol that you'll sell, and where you store your alcohol. Typically, the way you communicate this to the TABC is simply by giving your address. Know that a liquor license only covers one licensed premises or one bar or restaurant. When you open that second location, you'll need to get another liquor license. Know also that with a couple exceptions like alcohol to go, the buying, selling, storing, serving of alcohol must only happen at the licensed premises. All right, now moving on to business concept. Before the TABC will issue you a liquor license, it needs to know that your business concept fits within one of the liquor licenses that are available under Texas law. But let's back up a second here. First, make sure that you even need a liquor license. There's a short answer here. If you want to sell alcohol in Texas, you first need a liquor license. To go into a little more detail, let's go through why you need a liquor license and if you think you might not be selling alcohol, what that really means. The TABC regulates every phase of the alcoholic beverage industry in Texas. It's divided into three tiers: manufacturing, wholesale, and retail. If you want to be in the business of buying, selling, storing, transporting, or doing any business activity related to the sale of alcoholic beverages in Texas, you must have a TABC liquor license that authorizes your specific business activity. In other words, if your business concept does not fit into the structure of an existing TABC liquor license, that business is probably not legal in Texas. If it does fit into one of the existing liquor licenses, you need that liquor license. Before we get into the types of liquor licenses that Texas offers, let's talk about who does not need a liquor license. First, BYOB. Bring your own beverage. If you want to allow people to bring their own alcoholic beverages to your establishment, you do not need a TABC permit. You can uncork bottles and you can provide glasses. As long as you aren't selling alcohol, you don't need to have a permit. Next, people who are giving away alcohol for free do not need a liquor license. Some restaurants, for example, give away alcohol while they are waiting for their TABC permit to be approved. Note that once your permit does issue, you are restricted from giving away free adult beverages, with limited exceptions. So the common thread is this: if you're not selling alcohol, you can skip the liquor license. And no, this is not a loophole. If you are giving away alcohol, it really has to be free. A free margarita with purchase of a meal is not free. A free beer with a cover charge at the door is not free. Here's an example. Have you ever seen hotels advertise free happy hour? A lot of them do not have liquor licenses. TABC agents have actually been known to go in and ask for a drink. If they are turned away because they are not paying guests at the hotel, they consider that an unauthorized sale of alcohol and they can cite you for it. Again, if you're selling alcohol in any sense of the word, you need a liquor license to do so. Okay, with that foundation, let's move on to permit types. Which liquor license do you need? Which alcoholic beverage permit do you need? This is one of the most common questions we get asked, and our retail permit summary is our most often downloaded resource. Again, this video is designed for people who want to open a bar or a restaurant. We all know that those are concepts that can definitely work in Texas. While there are over 30 different liquor licenses available in Texas, there's just a short list of those that will work for a bar or restaurant. They are mixed beverage permit with a required food and beverage certificate, wine and malt beverage retailer's permit, retail dealer's on-premises license, and private club permit. The TABC calls these primary permits, and each of these permits allows for the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption. People can hang out at your spot and drink your drinks. The right permit for you depends first on what kind of alcohol you intend to sell and how you want to sell it, and second, on what permits are authorized at your specific location. We'll discuss that in the next video. I think these are easier to look at all together, so we've put together a table for you. First, let's look at the permits that allow you to sell everything. Mixed beverage permit, with or without a food and beverage certificate, and private club permit. We'll talk more about the food and beverage certificate in a moment. Like I mentioned before, we will not be getting into the details of private club permits. Know that this is the only permit available if you want to provide all types of alcohol for on-premises consumption in a dry area. With this permit, you aren't technically selling alcohol, but serving it to members of the private club. It's complicated and involves setting up multiple companies with multiple contracts and multiple bank accounts. We recommend talking to a lawyer about this one if it ends up being your only option. The mixed beverage permit is the only permit that allows you to sell liquor for on-premises consumption in a wet area. Assuming you're not in a dry area, the mixed beverage permit is the only permit that allows you to sell liquor for on-premises consumption. It's what any bar or restaurant holds if it sells tequila, vodka, and other types of distilled spirits. If you want to skip the liquor and just sell beer and wine, the wine and malt beverage retailer's permit works for you. You can also get a mixed beverage permit instead and simply not purchase liquor. Note that the name of this permit is new as of September 2021. It has long been called the Wine and Beer Retailer's Permit. One of the many changes happening to the Alcoholic Beverage Code is that the term beer is largely being changed to malt beverage. If you only want to sell beer, you need the retail dealer's on-premises license. Again, you can also choose either the mixed beverage or wine and beer retailer's permits and choose to only sell beer. You don't have to make use of all the rights that a liquor license grants you. You just can't go outside the bounds of what your liquor license allows. If you do go with one permit and later decide you would like to switch to another, know that you basically have to apply for a completely new license. There isn't an easy switch. If you do it right, you can avoid interrupting the operations of your bar or restaurant, but you will need to go through the whole process again. All right, these are the primary permits available for people trying to sell alcohol for on-premises consumption. In addition to the primary permits, you can also apply for subordinate permits. These are also sometimes called secondary permits. Subordinate permits, like the name implies, cannot exist alone. They are an add-on to primary permits. I've already mentioned the food and beverage certificate. It can be required as part of your primary permit. This requirement has to do with either the wet-dry status or zoning of your location. Again, we will talk more about that in the location video. You can also have a food and beverage certificate if you just want to have one. If you choose to hold a food and beverage certificate where one is not required, this is basically a TABC acknowledgement that you're a restaurant. The whole restaurant status got really confusing during the COVID-19 pandemic, so let's just put that out of our minds. Why might someone want to have a food and beverage certificate? People who elect to hold a food and beverage certificate where it's not otherwise required most always already intend to comply with its requirements, which are generally having a full kitchen, offering multiple entrees at all times alcohol is being sold, and having alcohol sales that do not exceed 60% of the total sales. Here are the benefits that might be available to you if you do have a food and beverage certificate. First, if you hold a food and beverage certificate, you don't have to post the otherwise required conduct surety bond. Next, if you are applying for a food and beverage certificate, you may be exempt from some of the notice requirements that would otherwise be required as part of your application, such as notifying residents within 300 feet of your location. Another reason that you might need or want a food and beverage certificate is if you have a child care or daycare center near your location. Without a food and beverage certificate at your location, the city or county can prohibit you from getting a TABC permit. Once again, we'll cover more on that in the location video. Maybe the biggest reason you may want a food and beverage certificate is if you would like to sell alcohol to go. Under the new alcohol to go law, mixed beverage permit holders can sell alcohol to go where they could not before. We aren't going to get into all the details of alcohol to go here, but know that if you have a mixed beverage permit, you have to also have a food and beverage certificate in order to sell alcohol to go. The TABC has a really helpful summary of alcohol to go, and we're linking that in our video notes. So in summary, a food and beverage certificate might be required due to your location. Where they aren't required, you still might want to hold one to sell alcohol to go or to avoid getting a conduct surety bond, having to send out certain notices, or having a problem with a protected place. In addition to the food and beverage certificate, there are a couple other subordinate permits available: the late hours permit, local cartage permit, and the brew pub license. The late hours permit allows you to stay open later than midnight. This is available in bigger cities. Otherwise, it's only available where cities have decided that they want it. The local cartage permit authorizes the holder of a wine and malt beverage permit to deliver alcohol to its customers. The brew pub license can be added onto a mixed beverage permit or a wine and malt beverage retailer's permit and allows the holder to engage in brewery-like activities. Again, we recommend starting with the alcohol that you want to sell when deciding what permit will work, keeping in mind that you may find out from the city or a county that the particular permit doesn't work at your location for a variety of reasons. It's a bit of a chicken or the egg problem as far as whether to think about the type of alcohol that you want to sell or your location first. So start with whichever approach makes the most sense to you. Before we move on to the next video and discuss location, let's talk about a few restrictions you should keep in mind as you plan your operations. Know that the person or company to whom the TABC issues the liquor license must always be in control of the business of the liquor license, including the purchase, sale, and storage of the alcoholic beverages. And with few exceptions, all of that activity has to happen on the licensed premises. The permit holder is responsible in every sense for the business of selling alcohol at the licensed premises, including ensuring the safe sale of alcoholic beverages. The permit holder must control the sale of alcohol, period. Again, I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you're trying to set up a traditional bar or restaurant in the sense that you'll offer alcohol and possibly food for sale and consumption at the premises, and your staff will serve those items to your customers. Your servers should be cellar-server trained and should refuse service to intoxicated people and minors. Not only does the permit holder have to be in charge, the permit holder cannot transfer that duty to another. Sure, you can hire people to manage, serve, and otherwise operate your bar or restaurant. What I'm talking about is selling or otherwise transferring your permit to someone else. TABC permits cannot be bought and sold. There are a couple of workarounds here, but know that a straightforward sale of your alcoholic beverage permit is prohibited. As long as your permit is active, the applicant turned permit holder is responsible for it. One last note, TABC permits have a 2-year lifespan. Renewing your permit is pretty easy and can be done online, but do not forget to do it. The TABC offers a grace period, but once you pass that, the TABC will cancel your permit and there's no turning back that action. You will have to start over again and get a new permit, which can take 90 days. All right, that's it for our discussion about your business concept and how it can work within the available TABC liquor licenses. Please join us for our next video where we figure out if the particular liquor license you want can work at your particular location.